I'm RedBar founder Adam Craniotis,
And I'm RedBar co-founder Kathleen McGivney.
and this is our podcast. I have to say that, for what is going to be a whole series of us just sitting here rapping about topics of the day, that we certainly have a doozy to kick this off with. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, or apparently you're my children, you definitely know that AP and Swatch have gotten together to do something rather interesting. Rather than a watch, it's a pocket watch. Now, obviously, we know people are going to start doing weird stuff with it, but first off, let's just talk about the fact that they're actually partnering to do something.
Well, that's the part that I think is really interesting because Audemars Piguet, most of our audiences probably knows, is not a part of Swatch Group. Is
very much not a part of Swatch
very
Group.
much not a part of Swatch Group, and so the prior collaborations between Swatch and two other brands that are members of Swatch Group they're less surprising because they're part of the same group. So it's a little bit frictionless for them to just kind of, reach across the aisle or go to a different floor in the building and talk about a collaboration. So I think that's one of the more remarkable things about it. I think, to your point, the most remarkable thing about it is that it's a pocket watch, but it also has a lanyard. As you can see, I wear watches that are on lanyards or pendant watches all the time.
The curve.
So that's right. You heard it here first. I'm a trendsetter. But I think that that's the most interesting part of it because it opens it up to a wider audience of people who might not wear wristwatches or who might want to use them as a different kind of accessory. So you're going to see people that will put them on a longer lanyard and wear them as a pendant. You might see someone wearing it on a belt loop. You might see someone actually using it as a pocket watch. And there will be some accessories that Swatch is going to be selling that include the ability to use it as a desk clock. So you can take it out of its little pop Swatch case and pop it onto your desk and use it as a clock. It has a broader reach than a wristwatch.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because it was pretty clear that Swatch was not, or AP was not going to allow this to be strictly a watch, that was going to cut too close to home. And so obviously, we've already seen the third-party guys are trying to figure out how they're going to make this into a watch. And I personally think 90% of the people who buy this are going to wind up getting, some third-party thing to wear it as a watch. It's inevitable, but it was also pretty clear that AP was not going to do that out of the box. And I think that's part of them not being a part of Swatch Group. What's more interesting to me, though, is, how polarizing this really is, because as we recall, when the original Moon Swatch came out, that really the biggest issue swirling around it was, does this dilute Omega's, brand cachet? Like, what is Omega getting out of this? Now, I think it's been pretty clear that Omega's done just fine. Obviously, Swatch Group's done gangbusters. I mean, this is basically a license to print money. You can argue that maybe they just kept going a little too long with too many other versions, and it started to get a little stale, but then you pivot to Blancpain. Now, admittedly, the Blancpain I don't think has had the same impact as the original Moon Swatch. But like you said, both of these are under the Swatch Group umbrella. Why not? But again, the argument was, well, I already own a Blancpain, and I'm not gonna wear it anymore because, gosh, now you could buy a plastic one, and the brand is ruined.
Which is quite frankly a load of horseshit. There's no.
Wait, we're saying horse.
We can say, right? No.
Yeah. No, I think we can.
Okay.
I'm all
Look,
right. No.
I mean,
I wanted someone else to do it first. I think it was you.
People have met me before. I use swear words like a comma. I don't think it diminishes the cachet of the higher end brand at all here. And in this particular case, it's a smart move by Audemars Piguet, I think, because what's their least expensive watch right now? Like,
I think the lowest you could probably first of all, if you could buy it in person, it would probably be code 1159, time only, maybe a hair under 30 grand.
Yeah, this is something that I find really interesting about this move from Audemars Piguet is because that's not an entry level watch. Nothing that they sell currently is an entry level watch, but the design is iconic. It's easily recognizable. The tapisserie dial is iconic and recognizable. Like all of the elements that are going into this are recognizable, but they are, not at first because of the lines, but they are attainable, and it's an aesthetic that people can get, and it's a price that is accessible to a lot of people, and they'll be able to engage with that brand in a way that they would normally have to either wait till much later in their watch collecting journey, or they would have to, only see them in a shop window or on someone else's wrist, right? So like this is something that makes this iconic design accessible to more people and attainable by more people. So I think that's really cool. But also I think it's cooler that they did it as not a wristwatch, right? This makes it, and I think that's also why people are kind of mad, because this makes it appeal to women and young people. And all the people that are pissed off are like, well,
Women,
well that make I I
women.
don't want to share things with them,
You can't have
so
women buying these things.
no, God forbid that they learn to tell time. But the thing here is I think that's kind of why people are pissed. They don't like it because of the price point. They don't like it because it's fun. Like look at the colors that they did. Some of them are a little bit like the really bright. I can't remember what the name of it is, but
No,
the
I have
the
them
blend.
here. The OTGROZ.
Yeah, some of the colorways are colors that like Audemars Piguet has never done in a watch.
It's a swatch. That was the whole point. When I got my first moon swatch, the one that I wanted was actually the, they say Uranus, but it's Uranus. And I bought it not only because of the jokes that write themselves. Um,
This
I
is
mean,
why we can't have nice things.
I love Uranus, and I love Uranus on my wrist. So obviously there's that aspect, but the color, like, this is never going to be something that Omega is going to sell. And so that was the point to me. Now, obviously, you can get ones that are a little more sedate, and I have those too. But if you're going to go this way, like I say, go big. I'm looking at this collection. I have to say, initially, I don't want to say I didn't get it, but I was just like, yeah, I what do I need this for? And now the more that I've seen it, the more I've thought about it. Yeah, once I can walk into a store, I'm definitely getting at least one and maybe two. And initially, I was just going to get I remember this name, the Ocho Negro, the black and white, which is clean. It's sort of my aesthetic. That's fine, black, white, I don't know, whatever. But the more I thought about it, if I can only get one, it would either be the OTG ROZ. I don't know what that means, or what's the sprinkly one, the Huit Blanc. That's the sort of the white with the little rainbow colors. Because why not?
I like that one too. I think it's whimsical, and I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I love about.
When did whimsy become a four-letter?
Well,
It's
we need more whimsy in life in general, but this is why I love Swatch in particular. I grew up with swatches. I love them. I have a somewhat alarming collection of them. I have a lot of swatches, and they're fun and colorful and easy to wear, and not something that you worry about, losing or scratching, right? So this is another aspect of this. This is something fun. You can carry it as a bag charm or a pendant or a pocket watch, or you can buy accessories that people are already 3D printing.
yeah.
But this was the other thing that I thought about this when I first was seeing the teasers, right? So Swatch teased this for a long time, and of course it got leaked and, published ahead of time and all this, but they were posting teasers for like, what, a solid week, I think, when just the name alone was the hint, pop. If you have any visibility into Swatch history or have paid attention to Swatch at all in the past, they did a line called Pop Swatch.
Yeah.
And it was cool because you could pop the little head of the watch out of the case and you could put it into different forms. So I knew that this was going to be that in some form. So of course, launching it as a pocket watch that's on a lanyard makes total sense because they can gauge what the customer wants out of this. And if there's a robust third-party accessory thing that grows out of this, they're going to go, oh, you know what? Maybe we should expand this. It's Pop Swatch all over again. We can make not only a desk clock holder for it, but we can make some other ways for people to wear it.
Yeah.
So I just think it's fun and whimsical and smart, and I am not going to be as cynical about this as I was about the many, 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 many iterations of the Moon Swatch.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like they kind of were at a certain point beating a little bit of a dead horse.
Well, it was a perfect example of living long enough to see yourself become the villain. Um, the eye
Yeah.
rolls, got to a point where people were just passing out in the street. And, which, again, I don't really have an issue with that. As long as there's something there for everyone, there's something that you like, let them go ahead and beat that horse, till there's nothing left. But I think, they just had to figure out, well, what's the next thing to do? And if you look at the Swatch Group umbrella, outside of Omega and Blancpain, where are the iconic watches? Everybody, again, within our admittedly narrow industry, knows what a 50 fathoms is and looks like, knows what a Speedmaster looks like. So these are icons. But what's the Breguet icon? What's the Longines icon? What's the Glashütte original icon? There really wasn't, I think, another direction for them to go. Yeah, they could make, I guess, a Seamaster. They could do a Bathyscaphe, but again, now we're still looking at Omega and Blancpain as the brand. So the fact that it was AP that answered the call, I think if you go back in time, you can see that the previous CEO, Francois Benamias, was actually a huge fan of the Moon Swatch. He thought it was a great idea, and he basically poo-pooed any critics who said it was going to dilute Omega's brand cachet. So it's pretty clear that I think this partnership, this idea, probably began under him. And then, Ilaria Resta, the current CEO, just sort of ran with the ball.
Well, I think that's interesting because I saw it posted somewhere that apparently back at some point when there was it's either under a Moon Swatch or a Blancpain one, somebody commented on Instagram like,
yes, I saw
when
that.
is AP gonna do one? And AP commented back and said, like, made some comment about, sign us up or something like that. And I think you're right, but again, to go back to what I was saying before too, this is also a way for a brand like AP, whose entry price point is skating around $30K, to get in the hands of more people.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here, though. Yeah, it's going to put it in more people's hands. Clearly, it's going to put it on the radar of people who maybe didn't even really know about high-end watchmaking, who don't currently say have the means to purchase something, but down the line might. But like right now, I cannot walk into an AP house with my zero Halliburton full of cash and walk out with the watch, I want. Maybe I could get a code 1159, which I don't want. But if I want a Royal Oak, I got to wait. And as we know, there are no real waiting lists. It's not like I'm in a queue. They're going to decide whether or not I deserve one. And that's going to be based on my relationship, my spend history, and, what I ate for breakfast that morning. That's just the cold, hard truth. They cannot make enough of these to satisfy the demand that's currently there. So what difference does it make to have more people wanting a product that they're not going to, it's not like they're going to say, oh, well, look at all this new demand. We're going to make more watches. They're not. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. Clearly, I'm a fan of this collaboration. But so now I see a Royal Oak everywhere. And I see it on people. I don't know that these are the people I want to be associated with. Does this make my watch worth less now that I'm seeing that basic design everywhere? And it's like you said, it's hanging on backpacks and it's around people's necks and it's, but wait, look at me, guys. I have a real one. Well, I don't. What? I have a real one. Look at me. I paid real money. That person's an imposter.
Well, then you're just really being a snobby fuck, that's really the thing. You're just
But
being a
does it
snob.
help AP in the long run?
I think it does, and we can talk about this, right? A little bit with your experience with your children here. But like, if you think about, right, this is this is giving, again, exposure to a broader number of people. It's also Swatch. It's all over the internet. Like, people who don't even collect watches, that
Yeah.
I've like passed by people on the street who are talking about this, who are just random people, right? This is like it's getting into the cultural zeitgeist a little bit. And so when you
Right.
think about, people who didn't even know what the name Audemars Piguet was, and then
Yeah.
there's also the younger generation who maybe doesn't even wear watches, they're going to know what that is. So 20 years from now, when they're in a position to purchase a watch of the caliber that, and that is a pun deliberately, of Audemars Piguet, they
Get
might
out.
think back to that and have a
Get
fond
out.
memory of it. But I know I'll show myself out, but tell me again, please,
Oh yeah.
about what your children said about this, because
Well,
we
so yeah.
were, yeah,
Yeah, I
go ahead.
thought to myself, okay, well, what's the coveted, age demographic that every marketer, every product's looking for? And that would be, the 18 to 34. Like, we've aged out, nobody cares what we think anymore. So fine. Well, fortunately, I have a couple of those in my house. Admittedly, one of them, my daughter, is almost 17, but, you know, 17 going on like 34 and completely jaded, I think, as most teenage girls are. My son is 19 and, nominally, I would assume has his ear to the ground. Like, we don't live on a farm. He's got a phone, he's hip, he's with it, sort of. He's not, but whatever. And so I said, well, hey, Paul, what do you think? Have you heard anything about this new Swatch collaboration? And, blank stare, with AP, huh? The stare gets blanker, if that was even possible. No idea what I'm talking about. So I explained it to him. And, he remembered, when I was, getting moon swatches and stuff, he pays a little attention to what I do. But the watches he wears, I think it's because of me, but not because of him. He has a watch, but he's not, super into this, which I thought would make him a perfect foil. No idea what I'm talking about. None. So, okay, fine. Lola, what do you think about this? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, Audemars Piguet, this brand that you know, right? Sort of. Okay, well, they are making a watch with Swatch. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, have you heard of this? No. Well, have any of your friends? I mean, have you... Dad, we're teenagers. We don't give a shit about watches. Literal direct quote. Now, mind you, this girl wears a G-Shock every day, and she even wears, a ring. I got
She
her a
wears
couple
this
of,
one,
yeah,
right?
I got her a couple of nanos, and she loves them. Her friends love them. You're not allowed. I should preface this by saying you're not allowed to have a cell phone in class anymore. They've basically, outlawed that, which I think is a good idea. That's another topic for another group to handle. But what it means, though, is that none of these kids have the time on them. So Lola has sort of become, as she said, like, I'm like the time master. Like, people come to her for the time. I'm like, okay, well, so you should care about watches. You should, yeah, well, whatever. Fuck no. So, so I don't know if it's trickled down yet, but what I'm curious about now and how I'm going to monitor this is every day I'm going to ask, well, have you heard something? Has a friend said something? I want to see if it does actually trickle down to where it should, because we remember our first watches very fondly. Now, it's interesting because I had swatches. I know you had swatches when we were teenagers. I had Casio. I wasn't really thinking about high-end watchmaking as a child. When I got my first good watch, it was a Rolex because thanks to Rolex's incredible marketing machine, well, Rolex is the best watch in the world. Of
Right.
course you're going to get a Rolex, but it wasn't because I knew about the history or anything. I just knew that that's a good watch. So I'm wondering, like you said, if somebody, now is getting one of these things, and also let's be clear too, 400 to what, 420, I
400
think,
to
depending
420,
on,
yeah.
yeah, which model you get, that's still not free. That's still
No.
not a $50 watch or even a $100 watch. And so for some of the people who are going to be the target audience, that is a not inconsiderable sum for them. So let's just say they get this and you say, well, down the road, they're going to remember that their first watch or they had this thing when they were younger, and now that they're aging into their careers and their income, they're going to start looking instead of going to Vacheron or Patek Philippe or God forbid Rolex, they're going to start looking at AP. Is that something that helps AP down the road? I don't see how any publicity is bad publicity, especially when this is for the most part good publicity. Now, it's one thing if people start buying these things and they just start exploding, just spontaneously combusting and catching on fire. Okay, maybe that's not good publicity. I don't think that's going to happen though.
No, one would hope it wouldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
they are using a new System 51 movement, but it's manual wind
Well,
instead
so
of
is it still a
automatic.
System 51 if
Well,
they
they're
took
calling
parts
it
out?
that.
I mean,
They're
it's
calling it that.
supposed to be 51 parts.
Well, maybe they replaced the rotor
Maybe
with a different part. I don't
yeah,
know.
it could be. They
But
better.
but in
Somebody
any
better figure
case,
that out because I'm,
they are calling it, they are
stickler.
stating that it's a System 51 movement and it's a manual wind, which is also an interesting thing because, let's put it this way, the kids these days maybe don't know what a manual wind watch is at this point because,
Well, will the novelty wear off when you have to keep winding it? But I think, and again, I'll say this, I think for the certain subset of people who buy this, most of the time, it's not even going to have the right time. They're buying it as an accessory. They're buying it as something to kind of show off, which I have no problem with. But it's sort of like a lot of people today, they don't set the date on their watch because like, what's the point?
or they don't set the perpetual calendar that always used to. There's
Yeah,
never.
that's a pet peeve of mine.
It's a
As a
pet
matter of
peeve of
fact,
mine as
the
well.
other day at the office, uh, I'm not going to say who this was, but one of the watches that I had photographed did not. The time was right, but the date was not. So I set the date. I don't know if they noticed when it came back to them that it had the right date, but it does stick in my craw. So that's
I'm
just
gonna
another
look.
thing. I will be curious once they're out there. We start seeing them on stuff like, do they have the right time, or is that just become too much of a pain in the ass? But I'm showing you that I have it. Um, I think they took the rotor out. I think just to keep it as thin as possible. And let's just give them credit. The dimensions. I thought it was. I knew 90% it was going to be a pocket watch type thing, but I was curious as it was it going to be large like a pocket watch where we're going to have some 50 millimeter whatever, because remember the pops watches were pretty damn big.
Yeah,
um
and they were. And if you saw it, I will mention too, like Zach Weiss from Worn and Wound posted on his personal, I don't know if it was also on Worn and Wound's channel, but on Zach Weiss posted on his Instagram an older Pops watch that used to be his dad's, and it was on this like cute stand.
oh
It's like a table stand that kind of, it's like a little tall guy. So it just hangs out on your desk like a little cute thing. But they were very big. And this is not, when you pop out the head of the watch, I think it's 40, a little
40,
over
it's
40.
40 millimeters and it's
Yeah.
under 9 millimeters thick.
So it
So
could
they
be easily worn as a wristwatch.
so yeah, once I saw that those were the dimensions, then I'm like, okay, they, they know what they're doing here. um and look, let's be honest, one of the selling points obviously of the Royal Oak, the original, the jumbo, was how thin it was. So I, for one, am very curious to see how this is going to play out in terms of the aftermarket. I know from interviews that Miss Resta's had, there really are no plans to make this a wristwatch. There are no plans for them to come out with something later. This is kind of she said, a one-off. I don't think that implies that, oh, it's just limited, we're not going to do it anymore. But I think the implication is that this is it. We're not going to see other complications. We're not going to see other models. Like maybe they're going to pull, Omega, and we'll start seeing new colorways and stuff. But the blueprint is here. Like you said, they might come out with other ways to accessorize it for your desk or on your clothing or your bags, but I don't think we're going to see an official wrist attachment coming from them. So that is going to be the purview of the secondary market. And we've already seen the Deluxe guys,
Well, they've already
they're
been prototyping.
they're
They've
I
got,
mean, I think
yeah.
their goal is kind of that starting tomorrow, if you pick one up, like they want to be ready to go to have, you able to order the attachments. And what they've mocked up, frankly, looks fantastic.
No, it does, and I think that to your earlier point, Audemars Piguet is not run by dummies. I am 100% sure that they anticipated that the
Oh
market
yeah.
would react like
Well,
that.
hence the size. I mean, otherwise
Hmm.
they would have gone big. Otherwise these would have been giant to the point that sure, you could wear it, but you'd kind of look ridiculous. And instead, they intentionally made this wrist size. Like, if not for wrist, then why wrist size? That's there's a little like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink there. And I see what you're doing, AP, and I applaud you for it. But I walked by the Soho boutique the other day. I found a couple old Swatches that needed batteries, so I had an excuse to go in the store. Here's a tip for anybody. If you own a Swatch, a battery operated Swatch, you get free battery replacement for life. Just walk in any Swatch boutique with your dead Swatch, and they will just swap the battery out, set the time, and send you on your way. So I figured, let me check it out. And yeah, the people are already out there. I mean, big lines, but people are walking down the street who have no idea what's going on, and they're taking pictures because this is ridiculous. And then they're going up and they're looking in the window where prominently displayed, of course, are the watches, and now they're taking pictures of that. So, like to your point, people who had no idea what AP was, now they know a little
Yep.
bit, and they can go and do more research and figure. And then they're going to tell their friends, I just walked down the block to get lunch, and oh my God, have you heard of this thing? No. What do you? Well, here I took a picture. Let me, so it's right there. That little bit of marketing is fantastic, and you see it around the world. It's been in Singapore. It's been in Japan. All the boutiques in the U.S. The Miami boutique. The cops were coming and getting rid of chairs. They were doing the same thing in Times Square. I think in Singapore they finally just kicked everybody. They said you can't stand here. They kicked everybody off the line. Again, you can't really pay for that kind of publicity. But
Yeah.
it's. I asked some of the guys online. One of them offered to sell me his spot or the first watch he got for $4,000. Right here, we'll do it. And then another one offered to trade me my. I was wearing my diver. Yeah, I'll trade you. Even swap. Till his friend whispered in his ear that no, that's real. Which again I love because this is the first plastic Swatch. I mean AP because it's forged carbon, so it's plastic. So again, head of the curve.
We're just over here
Yeah.
yeah, we're way ahead of all these trends. We're just like we're
But
setting them.
But part of me wants to go tomorrow, though, and just see because you've got the diehards and the professional line sitters and scalpers, flippers who've been out there since it was announced. But I still think you're going to see everybody else. This line is going to be down the block and around the corner,
I
and
think so.
so I think I will probably try to slide by and see what the chaos is like.
So
I
in
think
any
we
way,
both agree we think this is a good idea, right?
I think it's
On the
great.
whole.
I want one. I'm not going to stand in line one for one. That's
Okay. Yeah.
that's it.
I'm not
And I'm
standing
also
on.
not going to pay. I'm also not going to pay 10x retail for it.
No,
So
no. Well, I'm gonna look too. I want to see what are the prices currently
on
on
eBay.
eBay. Let's see what.
Well, here's some other speculation. Is this going to now make other pendant watches or other pocket watches
Oh,
soar
is
in
this a rising
popularity?
tide raises all the boats kind of situation?
Yeah, am I going to
Are
start
pocket
going on?
watches?
Yeah, am I going to go now? Are pocket watches going to double in their prices at auction now because all of a sudden people remember that pocket watches exist?
I'm gonna say no. But here, all right. So this is interesting. So somebody here has one in Honolulu. Buy it now for just $600. That seems a little low. So here's another one instantly shipped on release day, located in the United States somewhere, 1200. Full watch set, $8,000. So that's 1,000 each. I don't know how they think they're doing that. They're limiting it one per customer. Oh, here's the one I wanted. The Ocho Negro is 2,200. Oh, here we go. $4,000. Buy it now. Interesting. And now here's it now 50. So yeah, I wonder where it's going to settle once it. Right now, I think we're probably looking around 1,500.
I think those are, that's always interesting to me because that's always a thing with, well, at least with the moon swatches when they first launched and some of the really limited pieces with that they were like
Yeah.
the ones that were
Well,
like
the
the
Neptune,
the
when
ones
that's
that were
because
no, it was those ones that were like where they were like, oh yeah, we painted the hands under the
oh, with
good
the
moon and
moonshine
the
gold or
moonshine
whatever,
ones, and
the
those
second
ones
hand. Yeah, and then there was the strawberry moon, and then there
that
was the.
yeah, and they went for like premium on eBay, but those were the asking prices. What did they
Well,
actually
that, yeah,
sell
that's what
for?
I wonder. What is it actually like? Who clicks
And
on it?
the same thing happens with like studio underdog releases where people will like they'll have their order window open and people will list the watch on eBay before the order window has even closed. Like they don't
Yeah.
have the watch.
Well, yeah, none
They've
of these
ordered
people have
one.
the watch,
No, of course.
so
So the asking prices are always completely ridiculous. I'd be really interested to see
well, let's
the
see. Yeah, let's
actual
see where it
sold
settles,
prices.
like in a week or two, because I think it's going to take a while before you can even consider not standing online to get one of these things. Here's something else that somebody asked me, a friend of mine who's nominally into watches, not huge, but knows about them. And he said, well, what do you think? Is this going to be popular? Are people really going to be wearing these things around their necks and on their bags? And I said, well, if they do, there are going to be a lot of snatch and grabs out there. Like, think about it. Let's just say this was a real AP. Would you be hanging that shit on your bag or wearing it
No.
around your neck like that? Obviously not. But if this has that cultural cachet, it sort of becomes that it thing. I think we're going to be seeing a little bit of opportunistic crime there.
Do you think we're going to be seeing a Labubu moment with it? Like, is
Well,
this going
that's
to be
what
the
I'm
next
kind of
Labubu?
wondering. Did people really go and I wonder, did people grab Labubus
I don't know
off?
that they grabbed Labubus, but there was the
But
people that were obsessed and buying them on the secondary market for way above,
yeah,
and those were also blind boxes, which I don't. There was a rumor that
you mentioned
these
that. Yeah,
were
so tell me,
swatches were going to be blind boxes, but I don't think that's actually true. But the Labubus were blind box, so people were trying to
you
get the
didn't.
like super limited
So they had
ones,
to
so they would
keep
buy
going
tons of
until
them.
you
Yeah.
would. Yeah,
There was a
yeah.
very good South Park episode. If you want to watch a full documentary on the Labubu phenomenon, you can
Really?
go look up the South Park episode about it. It's pretty fascinating. But
I know that the Labubu thing is over because my wife got one from work. Yeah, and it had like it was like a for like a work thing, and I was like, wow. So just so you know, Liz, with this, we can say that the Labubu craze is officially dead.
I think
She's
that's
like,
right. And maybe we can gauge this craze
yeah,
by when an AP Swatch collab gets given
it's
to you.
being
Like
worn by a middle-aged
yeah,
woman is just walking down the street with one.
yeah, yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, I show them to my wife. She's like, "Oh, they're cute." And then I told her how much they were, and she just went on doing whatever she was doing. Mind you, she's a very practical woman, so I don't think she sees the value in spending $400 or $500 on plastic. And let's be clear, they can call it bioceramic till the cows come home. It's plastic. Although sapphire crystal front,
Which is pretty remarkable and probably responsible for why for the price being higher
a
than
little bit
moon
higher,
swatches.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who have handled them so far, so they definitely feel more substantial, say, than the others, the Moon Swatch and the 50 Fathoms. Again, I love both of those, but yeah, they feel like toys. They feel, like
Yeah.
what they are.
Those the videos that I've seen of like actual people handling them, not the like official Swatch videos, but like the
Yeah,
the like journalists and stuff. When they're zoomed in, they do look like they're very nicely
they look
made.
real.
They look great. I'd be really interested to handle one in person and of course see how it's true. Bioceramic is really, just plastic. Like I just to put it into, and this is going to age me and you, coffee talk perspective.
Oh,
Bioceramic is neither bio nor ceramic. Talk amongst yourselves.
talk
But
amongst yourself.
it's plastic. It's, at its core. So interested to see how the like the outer case holds up if
Yeah,
you're popping it in and out, because you can interchange them. They will all fit together. If you're getting
it's a good
an
point. I mean, these
aftermarket
are
strap.
designed to be moved, and I know a lot of people initially at least had issues with the crowns, cracking and some issues with even the lugs,
I think
on the
someone,
moon
yeah,
swatches.
actually, I think
So
We know someone who had one that
Oh yeah,
the lugs came off. Like she changed a strap on her
yeah.
moon swatch, and the lugs just
And look,
cracked.
it's a warranty. They just replace it, and that's another issue now. Is that the System 51 is sort of notorious for being unrepairable. You typically just chuck it and get a new one. And I think it's my understanding that if you have a warranty issue, at least initially, when you're under warranty, they just replace the watch. There's nobody's going in there and working on this movement. I don't even know that you can open it and service it if you wanted to. So, we are talking about, $400 or $500 object that if something goes wrong, it's not even a paperweight.
Right.
Is that an issue
Okay.
for
So
some people? I don't know.
I don't know, and I think that there's a lot of arguments pro and con for the System 51 movement in
Yeah.
general, like the serviceability and whether, and you can make a lot of sustainability arguments about single-use plastics and whether they're coming
They're
from
bad.
whether they're coming from plant material, that the bio and bioceramic is actually valid because it's coming from a plant origin. Whether it's coming from a plant origin or not, it's still a single-use plastic, which was the problem that I always had with the Blancpain ones, given Blancpain's commitment to ocean sustainability.
They're actually contributing.
But I still think they're cool. I just, I have some nitpicks, right? But either way, I think these are fun. I think that we need some whimsy in our lives. I think that the people who think that this is devaluing AP in some way are incorrect. I'm not gonna.
They're kind of angry.
Well, they're angry, but I'm not gonna argue with them about their personal opinion about what they will buy going forward. But I don't think this is gonna hurt the brand in the long term.
No. I mean, the brand is bigger than that. Just curious to get my hands on one. I definitely will get one, probably two, if eventually. I already know the ones I want. So let's just say, perfect world, you can walk in the store tomorrow. Which one are you looking at?
The green one.
The green
which is
one.
called the green. Yes, the green one. That's.
Nobody wants the green one.
I am the weirdo that wants the green one, but yeah, I like the 100%, the like really like Kelly green kind of version. But in any case, we already know that you want the Ocho Negro, so you're like,
yeah, that's the boring one. But I also want the OTG. What? I don't even know what this means. OTG ROZ. Everything else is a word. What the fuck is this? Like, that's actually going to stick. That's going to bother me for a little bit until I get to the bottom of this. And I am going to do a deep dive into why it's called that. Because
okay,
it's going to keep me up at night. Or is it just me that doesn't get it? You can tell me. Am I stupid? All right.
There's
So
Lanba, which is the other one that has the small seconds, which I'm assuming means blue and 8. But maybe it's just all of the colors and a bunch of 8s. I have no idea. All right. We should probably wrap this up so that we don't put everybody to sleep.
Well, I mean, there's so much more to cover, but you're right. I think, again, we've established we think it's a good idea. We think it's a good collaboration. We will probably be getting them, the green one, when the smoke clears, whenever that will be. And yeah, I'm curious as to what everybody else thinks too. Again, I've heard from both sides. People, it's interesting. It's one of those things you really have to have an opinion. I don't know too many people who are like, eh.
The only people who are like, eh, are your children. It's just your children.
Well, it's
your
because
children don't care.
Didn't beat them enough. So too late now. Too late now.
All right.
On that note, don't beat your children. Good luck. Happy hunting for your Swatch AP.
Take a look at our links. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Substack.